Benevolence family, love every time. That's the way we do it. We have a special guest, and we're going to talk about a special reality, I want to call it. It's not just an issue, it's not just a subject, it's a reality to me, but that's the whole reason why we're discussing it, because here's a specific own perspective on the potential possibilities and probability of the second civil war in the United States of America. I don't call it a second civil war because if it happens, it would be the end of the country. So I'm just terming it as a civil war. We all can discuss it and see it the way we want. But I'm glad to hear his perspective, and I wanted to share it with y'all. Thank you for tuning in to O.W.U, Soundcast, Videcast. That's what we do. And we might even post this over there on Davidemetri Live in Color. You keeping it real on the political consciousness. Let's let the King Man introduce himself.
My name is Wade Morris. I'm a pastor. I've been a pastor for 30 years. I have a BS in Human Development, Master's in Theology, and I was in the military for 14 years.
Wow, that's a lot. And that is a lot. We're going to get a godly and a religious, theological, and a military perspective, not just a civil society, civilian perspective on the potential and probabilities of the second civil war in the United States of America. So let's get into this. Thank you again for tuning in to O.W.U, Multiverse, Soundcast, Videcast. We're keeping it real. The movement is real, and we're going to the future. Love every time. Let's get this. Benevolence. It's preparation time. Yeah, we are the original world unit. Oh, this is our Soundcast. We are the leaders of the Unified Indigenous People Liberation Front and the priestess and high priest of the faith of true right, truth, and right. It's me, Dawoo Yashma Ausaru Ma, manifesting the truth, teaching, sharing, and calling to unity, the evolutionary leaders to atone and rule as one. O.W.U. I'm so grateful to be here talking with you. It's 2024. It's still April, and we're going into May, and we get to talk about this. The Civil War issue here in these United States of America. So no matter where you're out in the world, you need to know that economically and politically, whatever the United States goes through, a lot of countries in the world are heavily influenced and reflected. And that's a power of a hegemony. Just like certain countries that are heavily influenced by China or Russia because of their hegemony power. But with this second Civil War, we also have to remember earlier this month, the film Civil War came out. And me and this brother, we have discussions whenever we have time to see each other, or we just run into each other. We live in the same area. And I brought it up. And it's funny because I usually don't see him. I see him again just about a week later because I told him I saw the movie Civil War. I'm not really expecting the world's best made film when I go see a movie like that. But so I'm not going to sit here and criticize it, but what I was noticing was some of the messaging. And that's what I want to talk about when it comes to that film. But that's not what we're focused on. The film is not what we focus on. We focus on the potential and probability of a second Civil War within at least the next 5 to 10 years. 5 years, if you ask me. So what's your stance on the potential, whether it can happen or not?
The probability is low, but anything is possible. I just don't see it. Studying civil wars, the first thing it has to break down is institutions. Police, fire, federal government, the court system. It has to erode away.
This is true because in Myanmar and different countries, Ireland, which is not a legitimate study to me. I mean, it is a legitimate civil war, it is a legitimate nation state, but country, but it's so small it's not reflective of something like a large nation-state landmass.
Right.
But it is a good study to see what causes civil wars. And like he just pointed out, economic decline and power instability, leaving those vacuums open, and then those groups fight each other.
Right.
And then in one of the other main, even the countries in South America, they had the civil wars as of lately, not just Rwanda, etc., but and Liberia and stuff, but also religion is a huge religious conflicts, like it or not, is a huge influence on civil wars manifesting, complete civil wars. So back to what you were saying, like the resources, you were pointing out that the lack of resources, United States doesn't have a lack of resources.
Well, not only that,
it doesn't have instability, it's stable.
Yeah, it's not, it's just not the resources. Because every civil war that I studied in school, like you said, it's a very good point. In Latin America, it is usually the Catholics against the Protestants.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, here's the difference between us and them. We view Catholicism and Pentecostalism or Protestantism as one, as Christians. In America, we view it all as one.
Okay.
In Latin America,
I'm learning from you. I'm not a particular Christian.
No, in Latin America, they don't. It is Catholics.
They're old. And it is Protestants. Yes, they're still stuck in that, and a lot of people don't know the history of that now. But that was a couple of centuries, 5 centuries.
Oh, yeah.
That was a big beef. The UK was Protestant, and Portugal and Spain was still sticking with, Rome and all that were sticking with Catholic, but the Protestants started spreading because the UK. Now remember, I'm gonna say it didn't. Protestant didn't win because of religion or anything. It won because they used the Navy more scientifically, and they used their strategy overall. Their countries, the UK countries, got off of they separated the state from religion through so they can form what's known now it's formed called corporations, mega businesses. That's what a corporation is. A tentacle controlling business that has power with politically, not just power financially and economically, but that's what makes a corporation really a corporation. But back to what you were saying.
You can't have a country that's thriving without corporation.
Absolutely.
You can, and that's why capitalism. That's why the UK beat the Catholic countries, because they were unwilling to go into whatever new phase that was needed, because keeping people ignorant.
Spain and Portugal,
keeping people ignorant.
They wanted to stay brutal. They wanted to do coercion.
So Catholicism says, don't read your Bible, I'll read it for you and tell you what it means. Protestantism is, read your Bible so that God can talk to you. Right, we can talk to you.
Absolutely.
So when you have two separate powers like that.
That's a good point. So what that points out is, through the Protestants, they allow for people to learn and read. Reading wasn't out loud. Under the Catholics, it was out loud. That's why the Spaniards and the Portuguese are known as the worst colonizers. They couldn't do anything correctly because their people weren't educated, weren't allowed to educate.
That's correct.
So they go to these other countries and just be total brutal. They weren't sophisticated enough.
That's correct.
Whereas the British and the UK and some others. I mean, the Belgians were just like the Portuguese, and the Spaniards. You learn this when you study political science in Southern Africa, like I did, and in study international humanitarian law in Geneva and Switzerland and in Davos, like I did. But back to what you're saying, because what you're saying is he's giving you wealth, because knowledge is wealth.
Knowledge is wealth. Knowledge is everything.
Because now we're talking about civil wars, right?
Yeah, we're still, for example.
And we're talking globally, although our focus is on the United States.
Right.
We're taking you from the past, and so you can know what caused civil wars in the past.
Right.
So I got a special ingredient of facts historically to add. But now he's talking about how religion influences civil war and how it revolutionized the world.
For example, what's overlooked is the Bible was taught to the slaves at night, and they were taught to read the Bible at night. During the day, let's say on a Sunday, when the master would attend the slaves' church meetings, the speaker, which was sometimes black, most of the time white, would say, "Be good people, follow what the master says," right? Mm-hmm. But you got people like Jasper Williams. And now he's a famous preacher during the Civil War period.
Okay.
He would come at night in the Brush Arbor meetings and say, "No, look at Moses.
This is Virginia, Louisiana, Alabama.
This is the whole South.
Okay.
This is happening throughout the South."
Oh, wow. So Jasper Williams was traveling.
So he
was a black slave.
He would be preaching in the big services. But I'm talking about the preachers that would be preaching at midnight where the masters couldn't hear. Mm-hmm. They were taught to read the Bible. The slaves were. And they were taught pretty much, no, God does not want you to be a slave. So the more they learned to read the Bible, the more they wanted to be free, and the more they were running away, and the more it was troubling the slavers at that time. Mm-hmm. But what was also going on in the North, you had abolitionists.
Yes.
Who, these runaway slaves, they were teaching these runaway slaves, and these slaves that ran away would go back to their plantations and steal their people and say, "Hey, God wants you to be free."
Yes.
So reading started to grow amongst the slave population. Thus, the slaves started saying, "Hey, we want to be free."
Yes.
So if you look at every major movement in the black community, it comes through the church, because it's the church that taught the slaves, midnight church, not the Caucasian church, the midnight church, you should be free. This is not God's will.
Yes.
Now, what caused the Civil War was, and you were right, first of all, it was economics. That is first of all.
Absolutely.
Because the North was saying, we're going to take over your economy.
Not only that, the North was trying to allow for blacks to participate in trade, not just be traded in.
Correct.
And so what that would allow for is for they were focused on international trade and international corporations. They were those, when I say they, I mean the northern federal, known as the federal states.
Right.
The South was focused on sustaining an unsustainable, tormenting reality.
Yes.
I mean, a lot of people were suffering in the southern states, so-called. But
exactly. Now, what happened during the Civil War was that Abraham Lincoln was going to be president, and they knew he was going to be president. They started making plans then to secede. And at that time, states' rights were more powerful than federal rights. That changed after the Civil War, of course, right?
Yes.
We want to have the right to keep slaves. Federal government is saying the North was saying it's inhumane to keep these people as slaves because they're human beings.
Yes.
So in order to have a Civil War, first of all, it has to be economic.
It had to have a specific. So there's two catalysts to this first Civil War, is what he's saying, and he's walking through it. So the two catalysts were economic division amongst the southern states, how they did it, not just with slavery, People need to understand that is not the only way that the southern states were divided from the north. And also the end of human beings being allowed to be slaves, specifically the human beings that were written into the Constitution that were being allowed.
That's correct.
Were the black people.
That's
not
correct.
just African. Anybody with dark skin,
that's correct.
Hair,
that's correct.
As light as me and even lighter than me, could have to be a slave. It didn't matter. It didn't matter whether you were from America, because there were already black people in the United States, in Northern America, Central America, and South America, or if you were from Africa. Either way, you were a slave under the United States geographical control.
Right.
Now, I want to also point out to them that he's also pointed out to you the catalyst thing. So that's those specific things. It wasn't religion that caused the divide in the Civil War in the United States of America in the 1800s. It was economic differences between the original United States main central government, which is called the federal government, versus a lot of states that were under that banner, that were southern states, that they wanted to do economics different. They felt they were so powerful and that they could divide, start their own nation. So those two catalysts was the main things that pushed for the Civil War to happen. The North had many different ways they wanted to do economy. And then people also need to know, I want to say before I pass it back to him, that Britain, the UK governments, their intelligence agencies and military, France, Germany, Belgium, and many other European countries, Spain and Portugal, all were against the United States government. They were trying to divide the government, their intelligence communities, agencies, and their militaries were trying to break the United States down, and had been since it had been formed. They were funding, giving firearms, giving foods and resources to the southern states, instigating this divide against the United States central government. That also pushed for a second Civil War. We're going to flip these different catalysts when we talk about the potential of this second Civil War here in 2024 going forward.
Okay, so you say religion, but religion had a lot to do with it.
Okay.
If it were not for the churches in the South preaching slavery would not have been possible.
Wow.
The reason why slavery was not possible in the North is because the pastor said in the North slavery is wrong. The people in the South were saying that black people or African-born people were 1/5 of a person, and it was being preached over the pulpit.
Well, I believe all whites back then in the United States and globally hadn't evolved. The black people hadn't rubbed off on them enough, so they didn't have enough empathy. And I'm saying this, and I don't mean to sound like some kind of black supremacist or nothing. I have great white friends, and I don't want to sound like hypocritical. They know I believe this. But it's, for me, I believe that human race have been evolving. I don't believe that the black race was ruthless enough. And so I believe that's why darker skinned people weren't ruthless as the whiter skinned people. And I think we're meeting each other halfway right now. And so I know, let's get back to the Civil War.
We don't go there, but I think
what I'm saying is I don't believe the northern whites or southern whites gave a damn about black people. I believe it was only specific individuals that grew empathy back then, but at a mass, the white race globally hadn't grew enough potential of empathy. I believe also the black race hadn't grown enough potential of ruthlessness to break free. And I think no one wants to discuss these matters because it's politically incorrect and it can make me or anyone seem dark or negative or evil, but I'm just saying what I perceive to be the complete truth, and I'm a mix of both. And I'm telling you, I think this is what caused it. I believe the Northern, when you said the thing that caused me to say this is so you could take the mic back, is that you pointed out that the North, and you were completely right, that the Northern were preaching the truth, and that's these people are not supposed to be slaves, and this slavery isn't good. You're right. You were right. So religion did have a lot to do with it. I'm glad you pointed that out. But because my goddad was a white man that was from I believe Kentucky, and he grew up all white world, like he told me before he passed. He was almost 90 when he passed. Statler King Star, rest in peace. That he never even met or saw a black person till he was in his late 20s. He lived in a all white world. He ended up going to Harvard during the 40s for business. If you know anything about Harvard, back then it was a little island. It was separated from the other part of Harvard. That's where he studied on that island. Now it's known as the Chambers of who? Of what? Organization. That's right, the Skull and Bone. So a Skull and Bone member raised me. He was not only one of them goddads you see here and there, just claiming he raised me. And he was a white man, he was a Republican and all this stuff. He didn't raise me, I didn't live in a home with him, but I was at his house a lot. And he was the man. You know, I'm telling you, he showed me this, that they were very ruthless. And they did not care for black people even in the North, because he was raised in the North. He's from the North. But I just want to say that also he's correct. We're both a little correct, because there were a lot of preachers, and the preachers in the North did not preach slavery. They did not preach, but they did preach, and even in churches that Statler raised us in during the 80s, they were preaching that we were inferior. And these are white people from the North that during the 80s in Southern California and in North, he used to take us around the country to different churches. And they were preaching, all them white people, when they ever talked about race, their inclination was that a lot of them was that we weren't supposed to want to not be slaves, and that we were sinning for not wanting to be slaves. And so when you say that, I'm not meaning to disagree with you. It's just that I got a childhood experience that's very different from a lot of other black, and like I got to see it for myself. Now I would say it was probably a minute few that was preaching that we should not be in slavery.
I don't know. It wasn't a minute few during that time. You got to understand that, you got to understand that second in line during the Civil War, the North was losing the war. Literally, they were losing it, because Lee was a fantastic commander. He was hitting the North and running, and what the North would do is they would fight a battle, lose or win, leave the battlefield, go back to camp, and then come back out and fight again. Lee will come out and fight, stay there, boom, boom, pummel them. Okay, now we got to go back. The North fought in the beginning.
Well, let's stay on the subject.
I know. This is important. This is really important. When slavery came into the picture, right, the North began to win, because now they say we have an ethical, moral reason to fight the war.
Everybody that doesn't, what he's pointing out, and he's telling the truth, is that the war was already going, and it wasn't focused on the first Civil War in the United States was already going, and it wasn't, the catalyst for it was not slavery.
That's correct.
The main catalyst was not slavery.
That's correct.
It was that they were trying to succeed. The Southern states were trying to succeed. And also, the North were trying to do what the South perceived is overmuch control of their resources by overtaxing them and other things, right? Yeah. So what he's pointing out is that not until the North pushed that we need to free these slaves did they finally start winning the war.
The Emancipation Proclamation by Abraham Lincoln was a stroke of genius.
Okay, we go from subject to subject.
No. This is the same subject. It's the same subject.
Okay, we're gonna have to get to the point.
Yeah, it's the same subject.
We got to get to
because every time I try to get there, you explain my point, but here's what I'm trying to say. You don't have a civil war without slavery.
the first Civil War.
It is an impossibility.
Absolutely.
You can't have it.
I agree.
Even when the founding fathers signed the Declaration of Independence and they decided to take slavery out of the first declaration, they said, we are allowing a snake to stay underneath the table and it's going to bite us. Here's the thing. They knew it was going to be a civil war. Okay, the other thing that caused the Civil War was because the states had rights. It was a breakdown in the federal government's power in order to enact power over the states. The states had just as much power as the federal government. That's why after the Civil War, it all changed.
And there's a big debate about that. Those of you that don't know, not that he's completely right. First of all, he's right on not just common sense, but he's right about history, and he's also right about the legalities of what happened. But I want to know now that we have established what the causes could be for a civil war, and he established what caused the Civil War, the first Civil War in the United States of America. I want to run back to you a couple of things of what caused the Civil War, regardless of what.
Well, let me say something before you get started. Why the probability of a civil war is not possible in this country.
We're going to go into that, but I want to just let them know we're going to have a whole nother segment for that.
Okay.
So he just basically introduced another second segment. But religion is a big catalyst for civil war.
It is.
Amongst human beings, period.
Yes,
and then whether it's the Middle East, whether it's Muslims, whether it's the Hindus and Muslims in India and Pakistan, whether it's this Hindu against these Hindus, whether it's current day Nigeria, the Muslims against the Christians, whether it's the Jews against the Muslims, and Israel, they want to act like Palestine. Israel, as small as that place is, it's one country, really, pretty much. That's why it's so hard for them to live together. And so civil war is what we're covering, financial, economic, and race wars. That could be another catalyst towards civil wars. It has been. And tribalism, and that's looking over in Rwanda. But the main thing, a big catalyst could be if a certain group is oppressed, and the oppressor group is now divided amongst it whether they should keep oppressing. And that's what happened to our people in the United States, the black people. So these are some of the things that could cause a civil war, but the main thing that people need to pay attention to for our circumstances coming this possible or probable civil war in the United States now, or any civil wars in the world, is economic. Because the current monetary system, how economics will be done. What if there's a civil war in the future over whether there will be only digital currency and no more financials? The financial system will no longer be in any physical monetary form, whether it be written, money printed. Everything has to be just digital. Imagine that, right? So we're going to go into that. Thank you for tuning in. You're right here with O.W.U. I'm Davidemetri, and we're here with Brother Wade, Pastor Wade, very brilliant brother, and we're going to break some more down to you. We're going to go into the potential of the Civil War now. It's 2024 April. We're about to kick that to you. You're live in color with Davidemetri and the O.W.U. Soundcast, Vibecast. Blessed.
Claim and affirm that unto David was awakened.
The human spirit of love. This compromise has concluded.
To be on whose destiny to wake.
I raise my hand. generational curses and witchcraft. I overcame the worst. Now he has evolved a new sword.
Yeah, so 2024 April, they brought out a movie called Civil War.
Yeah.
About the film is about what a second Civil War, some realities of that would look like and be like, not only on an individual level, but on a big scale. But we just broke down the history of what caused the Civil War and what caused the Civil War in the United States, and also factors and that caused Civil War. It's one we didn't really get into. I'm gonna bring it up because I think this specific one is a real factor in our current situation that could cause a Civil War. But let's go into what you were wanting to delve into.
The Civil War had charismatic leaders. Jefferson Davis, he wasn't really charismatic, but he was a leader. He was an effective leader.
Wasn't he the Southern president?
He was a Southern president.
He was the president of the South.
Right, of the South.
Basically.
But he was a commander, a former commander.
And a former commander. So they loved him. They revered him.
So exactly.
There wasn't no social media, wasn't no TV,
exactly.
Radio even.
He was a war hero. Abraham Lincoln was a different type of guy.
Yeah, he was a businessman type.
And in that, Jefferson Davis kept his friends around him, but Abraham Lincoln kept his enemies around him. He kept his enemies around him because his enemies were brilliant, and they would always come back at him and say, well, no, and he would always come up with a decision, sometimes right in the middle. Jefferson Davis was surrounded by people that were sycophants, but he had a problem because the states still did what they wanted to do. But both of these figures were very powerful. You got to have powerful figures on the right, on the left. I'm just saying that. Powerful figure here, powerful figure here in order to have a civil war. Without powerful figures, you can't have it.
Absolutely. It's interesting that you're saying that because in that film, Civil War, there was a president that in that movie that they just dropped this month. It was a president, and that figure, they didn't show much about him, but it seemed like he was a mix of Joe Biden and Donald Trump.
No doubt.
It was like he was a mix in that movie.
No doubt.
Those characters. But you pointing that out makes, for me, when you say that, I feel like Donald Trump is that figure. He's that. It's not that he's polarizing. It's just that he's powerful, and he's with that factor that we haven't pointed out, that we did not point it out, that causes a civil war. There's a factor that I haven't pointed out yet, and I'm going to point it out, but I'm going to let you finish.
So you take Donald Trump. You say he's a mix of Donald Trump and Biden. I think that
In the film,
I think that he's more of a Donald Trump because he took away the 25th Amendment, I believe the 26th Amendment. He took away the right to speak. He bombed American cities. Donald Trump did that when he went from the White House to the church. He had the military, which he's not supposed to do, but because Washington is a district and not a state, he could do this. He called out the full-time military to push people around and push people back so that he could get to the church and back. He was trying to start something right then and there.
when was this?
Okay.
Donald Trump he's speaking of.
Yeah. So
While Donald Trump was president, that's what he's speaking of.
while he was president,
What did he do?
While he was president, there were protesters in Washington that were protesting against him. He called out the United States Army, not National Guard. Army.
Oh, wow.
Because, as I said, Washington is a district of Columbia. It is not a state. You can't do that in a state, but you could do it in D.C. If he did it in a state, he would have had to have proclaimed a state of emergency.
On January 6th?
No. January. Oh, that's
a whole nother story.
Oh, yes, a whole nother story. Yes. I'm saying how he used the army in that one day.
What day was this?
It was was right before the election. I believe it was 3 months before the election. Maybe somebody out there knows.
They killed a black guy.
Yes. And they were protesting. He carved his way through the people with the military. The military came down with a helicopter, rotor blades, and was pushing people to the ground with the rotor blades. He would do that in order to maintain power.
So this is brilliant what you're saying, because if you guys understood what he led you to is that if Donald Trump gets back into the presidency, it's like you tell a child that this is wrong that you're doing.
That's right.
Or this is wrong to do, and a child does it and gets away with it here and there.
Right.
And you find out that the child is doing it. You just tell them, didn't I tell you that was wrong? Don't do it. Then they keep doing it. People keep complaining, and you just, hey. And so finally you take it from them. Mm-hmm. They can't do it no more. Then you give it back. And you never discipline them, you just took it from them. Now they've been thinking. Now they've plotted and planned. Now they even have a cousin to help them. Now they even got their brother, one of the other siblings, to help them. So this is what we're looking at with a Donald Trump president.
He even said he's going to suspend the Constitution his first day in. Now let me tell you something.
That's going back to the Nazis.
Everybody's
going back to the Nazis and what Hitler and them.
Exactly. Everybody that is ill-informed think that you can suspend the Constitution for one day. It is an impossibility to suspend the Constitution for one day.
Done,
it's done.
All of the central United States, northern United States, southern, Midwest is what I mean by central. I call it central. Southern states and eastern states militias are gonna mobilize. They're already organized. They're gonna mobilize, and they're never gonna submit. Some of them are never gonna submit to the federal government in any form or fashion.
Texas,
and then this in that movie Civil War, California and Texas united to fight against the federal government and won.
That's the only way.
And won.
If you got a guy like Donald Trump who's bombing Americans and killing Americans, that's why I say I don't think he's going to win, because people in America are smarter than people think. Now, there is a section of the United States, a small little section, that sees Donald Trump as a savior. I believe that it's just like when they thought he was going to win in 2016, 2020, and I'm like, he's not going to win because American people are smarter than they think that they are.
Okay, can I interject?
Sure.
We agree to disagree. I disagree. What led us to doing this talk is that we disagreed. I love disagreeing. As you know, I was a world's debater. I've debated on multiple continents. I was a debate champ. I got a scholarship to study in the Southern Hemisphere. I ended up studying in South Africa. I got that right, and in Geneva. Well, as gentlemen, we disagree, right? But we work together, doing business together, etc. And that's something I'm saying because I want other brothers to understand you can disagree on a lot, but you can still work together. But I disagree. We already disagreed that he believes that the second Civil War won't happen at all. And that there's a lot to what he's saying.
Small probability.
That perspective is a very good perspective, actually. Not optimism or anything like that. It's a scientifically, mathematically good perspective.
Exactly.
But from my perspective is that it is inevitable and rather soon. I don't think, and the crazy thing about it is everything you're saying, you're hanging your stance. He's hanging his stance on whether there will be that there will not be a second Civil War on the gamble, the flush that Donald Trump won't become the president. I think that Donald Trump will become the president. This is why. There's one reason why not. And I have a song about it.
Okay.
I wrote the song in 22 and released a video about it. Okay. So I have full evidence that I had this stance at one point. The only reason why I think Donald Trump won't become president, and even if he does, won't get to the point to divide the whole country, is if white supremacists that are dissatisfied with him or want to use him as a catalyst to spark a second civil war, have him killed, but put it on the killing to make it look like a liberal killed him. So in other words, the white supremacists that want to just use Donald Trump, they see the power he got, they will purposely have him assassinated, but they're gonna make it look like a liberal and a liberal group, some liberals killed Donald Trump. They'll do that to spark a civil war purposely. That is what the only way I think Donald Trump will not become the president, because the courts have no power and ain't shit. They can be bribed. He bribed his way to the presidency. And so the other thing is that he could become a president, and early on in the president, he could get killed in the same manner after he becomes president. That's another thing that would stop him from sparking the civil war. I also don't believe if Donald Trump gets in the presidency, he's gonna do all those blatant things. I don't think he is made like that. I think the reason why he might end up getting killed by some of his own followers is because once he uses them to get in the presidency and they want him to do those extreme things, I think his ass is not going to do it. And I think that's why they might end up killing him. So for me, if you notice, every scenario I came with in this war game, second civil war game, there will be a second civil war coming from me. I don't see a way out of it because of Donald Trump.
Okay.
Now, if he don't become president, I believe, whether he get killed or not, I believe the second civil war is going to erupt incrementally within the next 5 years because him not becoming presidency. 5 to 10 years. So either way with me, it's coming within the next 10 years. I don't even say, I'm just saying 10 years giving grace. I think 5.
No, it's an impossibility. It's just an impossibility. So it's okay.
Why is it an impossibility?
It is a low probability. One.
Absolutely.
Remember what civil wars are fought over in every country.
Yeah, we just went into that.
One is money.
It's 2 factors we didn't speak of, though.
Okay.
And I'm going to speak of those 2 factors.
The main factor is money. What is the money?
Always.
This country is not divided.
Money, capitalism.
This country is not divided over money. Even you
listening to yourself?
Yes. No, it's not divided over money. I didn't say over making money. I didn't say ways to make money. I said they're not divided over
because we're not
money because we are a capitalist state.
We have a strong politics.
We have a strong
monetary.
And that's right. It is very powerful. Even though we're not on the gold system anymore. We're on
the fiat system.
I'm just talking about our country. I think the gold system would make us more richer, but since we decided not to go there, and our money is on what you call the fiat system, as long as my son can go spend $5,000, take a truck out, rent it, and go and make money, enough money to go and rent another truck, and to go and rent another truck, and then go out and start his own trucking company, and then buy these trucks. This is what my son is doing right now.
Awesome.
Okay? So
what you're saying is that structure and that we can live out a more positive, healthier life than these developing countries. We don't have to worry about that destabilization instigating a civil war. I agree. I agree on that.
Here's the thing. The slaves could not get out of slavery, right?
I don't believe this factor that you're pointing out will stop a civil war.
No. I
don't believe the economic stability of our monetary system and the policy of the United States of America I don't believe that will save.
That's just one. That's just one thing I'm pointing out.
Let's get to the other one. We're on a timer.
Second thing is the institutions. Our institutions are strong. Our
polity. Our governance and government.
We have the judicial, the legislative, and the administrative are the president.
Do you know how dissatisfied?
I didn't say anything about the people being satisfied or dissatisfied.
I ain't putting it in there.
No. But what I'm saying is this. Understand, Donald Trump is right now suffering legislative.
Judicial?
Yeah, judicial. He's on trial right now.
Absolutely.
Okay, let me say something here. And this is important. I'm sure nobody's looking at this. The very fact that he's on trial means that he doesn't have all the power that people around him thinks that he has.
Absolutely, I agree.
So because you have
places for desperation.
Now
it proves you right that he will act the fool if he becomes president.
Now Hitler
or act the fool to become president.
Hitler, when he became powerful, he never was on trial. He never went on trial. Even when he was doing absolutely. That's what I'm saying, because he was that powerful. And then the guy who was the president at the time gave him president, seeing that the only way that we can have a country,
especially with a gun in his head.
Well, yeah, that's what I'm saying.
You're talking about Adolf Hitler.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I forgot the guy's name, but he says, okay, this young man is an up-and-comer, and he's going to just roll right over it if we don't give him power.
He gave him the prime.
Okay, so exactly. So you take Trump. Everybody giving him nothing. As a matter of fact, the judicial is going to be his biggest enemy.
Well, already are.
Exactly. And I know people that voted for him the last 2 terms who said, I'll never vote for him ever again.
I do too.
Okay.
My relatives are white supremacists.
So understand
in West Virginia that I found out were from the white people, and I told them who I was. I tracked them down. I said, your relatives raped my black great grandmother, my Indian and black grandmother, and like when she was very young, and so the younger ones, they took to me and we talked, and even the older white supremacists, their dad, who's the actual white supremacist, they're not really a white supremacist. They got racist tendencies, but they're not
racist
like that.
Tendencies.
But they're not no white supremacists like their dad. And they don't even get along with their dad because of that.
Right.
But like the younger generation.
That's who's going to keep him out of the White House.
This is good what you're saying. I like this. This makes me feel better as a person. But my perspective, I'm sticking to it, and this is what he's saying is correct when it comes to our polity, our government's polity. When you look at a stable state like the United States,
yes,
this isn't unstable like France.
That's correct.
Now, a reason why I bring up France is France, but that's one of the things that people love about France is they give power to the people a lot. The United States doesn't. The United States is more fraudulent as a democracy, but at the same time, the polity is so stable that when you talk about something like the Second Civil War, anyone with an education and understanding of the system would say, hey, we don't have to worry about that right now. But what Donald Trump is kind of, so what it sounds like to me, what you're saying is Donald Trump is selling wolf tickets and they pulling his card. I don't see it that way. What I see, because obviously my background of actually, working in the different, facets I have in the government and in courts and stuff, what I see is just legality. I see a desperate attempt to pacify both sides. I feel like the reason why Donald Trump keep getting off on everything, getting smacked in the hand and getting taxed, basically they're taxing him by making them pay attorneys and making them pay, is because they're trying to make everyone passive. But they know that whoever this group is that's opposed by whoever's backing Donald Trump are no more powerful than Donald Trump and those backing Donald Trump. And I feel like there's a stalemate right now. And all that you said when we first talking about our current situation, not the history, I think you just proved it right that Donald Trump is going to try to do all and end up being that president bombing his own people. And like he said, he's going to cut off the Constitution and all these things and create a new state. And I personally don't believe that the judicial system and Donald Trump's opposition can stop him from running from president. And I also don't believe they can stop him from at least getting to the point where the college, the electoral college is like divided with probably one vote, and even the mass population is going to be divided. It's going to be like, if he loses, it'll look like it was fraudulent. If he wins, it'll look like it's fraudulent. It's like no way to win with Donald Trump running for president. That's why I think they're trying to stop him from being allowed to run for president, is totally because there's so many. Now, we know more people vote against Donald Trump than for him. I'm not stupid, but what I'm saying is, on paper, it's going to come and look like it's like a perfect divide of electoral college and a perfect divide of the popular vote. And I think whether he lose or win, it's going to create such a disdain and a distaste and such a divide. We're so divided. The divide is going to be revealed, is what I'm saying.
You're saying
the divide is going to be so revealed that my neighbor hates me because in my mind, if my mind thought Donald Trump is a racist, I know this person that lives next to me is a redhead white woman, a blonde-haired white woman with a blonde-haired white husband. In my mind, we don't talk. Automatically, I'm thinking they're a Donald Trump supporter. I think this type of scenario is going to be in people's mind, and I think people are so divided over all these different things, and these figureheads of Donald Trump, Biden, or these people, they stand.
I don't think so. You're not giving. You
don't think that people?
No, you're an intelligent person.
Mm-hmm.
Most people in America can read. No, this is very important. This is a nation that is educated.
So you believe?
I believe that people see who he is, just like they saw him in the last election. Let me finish one thing. Let me finish what I'm saying. More people came out to vote than ever in the history of our country. You realize that, right?
That's true.
Okay, now, Biden received more votes than anyone in the history of our country, but also Trump received more Republican votes than in the history of our country.
Absolutely.
But I think that where people are forgetting, the power is not with the Democrats or the Republicans. It's with people like me who don't have any affiliation. There are more.
I want to say something. When it comes to what he's saying, it's only right partially because we only have power over and of a certain way as the people. We're the civil society. The political society, the political players have their power over certain things. It is a myth to think that because we're the people, we have the power, or they're the political. No, we all have different parts to play, and that's an issue, which adds to me believing that there will be a second Civil War soon.
Well, I don't think so. I'm going to tell you why.
We're limited.
This is a country in which you have to collect votes. We're not like Nicaragua, Latin America, where the federal government is over the vote. Understand, the federal government. Okay, let me finish. Let me finish. This is very important. The federal government is not over the vote in California. Neither is the federal government over the vote in Nevada.
Absolutely.
Okay, so every state has its own system, and every system in our state and the states are different from one another.
And I agree with you.
Okay.
When it comes to how many people will vote, I believe more people will vote against Donald Trump.
Okay. I'm trying to tell you.
I'm just letting you know that I do. I don't want Donald Trump to be president. I don't want Biden to be president. But I also believe more people will vote against Trump than for Trump. But But the electoral.
No, the electoral is going to reflect. I agree. The electoral should go away forever, okay? Because we don't need it anymore. The electoral system should go away forever. We don't need it anymore. But the people in the middle, there are more people that are in between Republicans and Democrats. These are the voters who vote for the president. The guy is in the middle. These are the people that you have to convince. These people in the middle, now you got some that's leaning towards Trump, but most of the people in the middle are educated. More educated people voted for Biden. More uneducated people voted for Trump.
Okay.
Okay, now.
Awesome, but we got this is second Civil War.
I am talking about second Civil War. This is why I'm telling you why it's not possible. The probability is very low. Because our system says vote. You have to convince you and me that you are right in order to get power in this country. Now, I'm talking about electoral power. I'm not talking about the Rothschilds. I'm not talking about the money that's running the Federal Reserve. So we're not talking about that. Okay, we're talking about the political system that runs our country, let's say on the outside.
Well, I absolutely. In the education system, we're taught that. In the corporate media, we're taught that. But I absolutely believe it's a fraud. The system's a fraud. It's fake. It's not totally fake, and it's not totally fraud. When you have local government, and they teach us this in political science, there's nothing you can do about it. They teach us that our republic system is easily manipulatable and corruptible. And they teach us how. It's because at local government level, that's few people. The fewer people, the less corrupted. So what's happening is you got 500 million people. So you got all these different, and so and not only that, like he said, the electoral system, which is too old. It never was from the beginning, and then when they created it, it was because of some situation had popped up with the Democratic Party and all this stuff. So it's some bullshit, and it should have been temporary. They should have already.
They should have done away with the electoral system.
But I like his points. But I'm still convinced that there will be a civil war. But let's get back to the now, Donald Trump is not a star here. We're not focused on Donald Trump.
He's just a type of leader.
The Civil War. Yeah. He pointed out that there will be a catalyst, so-called leader that will be a catalyst that could push Civil War to be. But his stance is that there won't be a Civil War and that there can't be a Civil War. Mine is that there can be and that there will be. And so we both agree that Donald Trump is the catalyst. That if it does be, he would be the catalyst. If there was anyone that he would be part of the catalyst, not he's an individual catalyst, not a factor element.
A factor in it.
Yeah, of course. And so when going forward, this is the election years 2024. We're in April. We're in late April. We're going into May. And so, like he said, there's a lot of court stuff. So there's a huge divide in the United States politically. But as we know, like he said, economic is trumps politics. People don't want to lose their estates. They don't want to lose their stock holdings. They don't want to lose their crypto. They don't want to lose their brand new cars. They don't want to lose their daughters and sons over a war.
Neither opportunity.
But this is what... There's two factors I haven't spoken on, and I'm going to in just a minute. Thank you. Stay tuned, beloveds. Again, we're grateful. Thank you for checking in and support our sponsors, the authors, support the artists, support the entrepreneur, the businesses, and check with the links and follow even our Wade, our prophetic speaker. Not only is he a pastor, but he's prophetic and very educated. This is brilliant. I didn't expect it to be so enlightening for me. And so I want to kick two factors I left out that are very important when it comes to civil wars or domestic conflicts. So those are the educated and being educated youth. Teenagers up to college students, university students. They organize social activism, and they organize groups that go against the more conventional, conservative forces of their government. That's one of the biggest forces that cause a civil war. And there's a book I read, forgot the name of it. Hopefully by then I can find it and I'll put the name up and you'll see it in the graphics. But Student Revolt, I believe it was called. Book about that thick, 800 pages. I read it, broke it down. You got the czars being toppled. You got all these historic revolutions, coup d'etat, etc. and civil wars was heavily pushed by the student class of people, which is always millions and which is probably almost 100 million in the United States. And also that is added with the prison class of people that are imprisoned. A lot of people, once they go to prison, are heavily communicated with prisons and people in prison. And they have a whole influence on stability and instability of a nation. Because that's a whole, in the United States, that's a whole 100 million people, 50 million people that have been in and out of prison are still considered part of that whole movement, even if they're not in prison anymore and don't go back to prison. And so that is with the student side. That's over here more toward the liberal side, right? But the right side is the group that is the historically oppressor class, the historical oppressor bloodline people who are losing power now. I repeat, the other factor that causes a civil war in a country is the declining powered group, the group that's in our case support Donald Trump. And so you have to realize millions upon millions of white, poor, and so-called middle class in the 1800s were the people that were enslaving blacks and enslaving American natives and killing them. And so over the last 100 years, they've been losing so much power, but you have to realize they were given free land. They were given all kind of things. Even after the Depression and during the Depression, and blacks were stripped of what they had during the Depression and given to poor whites. And so these people are now up in arms and very angry, bitter. And this is a classical case of seeing the signs of a civil war when you see those two sides at it with each other. And this side being so desperate because it's the historical oppressor class. And not only the slavering children of the slave owners, it's also the children that are of some, not all, children of those that were just racist and classist. These people are losing their power and they're mad. Not just angry, but mad cuckoo. And so Donald Trump is like their figurehead, right? And it's true. And then you got a lot of, on this side, like I said, the student revolt, along with the support of those that are imprisoned. And then you got this huge clash going on. And that is a fire. You light it, that dynamite, it explodes in civil war. And every element, a lot of elements are there.
In order for there to be a civil war, and you're right, Donald Trump is the spokesperson for those who are Caucasian people who feels like they're being pushed out. Absolutely.
I mean, there's a lot of black men that I'm friends with that support Donald Trump.
Yeah.
I just, like I said, I don't want Donald Trump or Biden or any of these lowlifes to be in leadership. But it is what it is, and that's my whole reason why I believe that there will be a second civil war, because it is what it is. There's too many factors, and everything keeps pushing it toward that. Everything that we're putting the gamble in that it won't happen is falling apart.
Well, I don't agree. I don't agree with that. Our economy is growing. We have the best economy during this time in the world.
Economies are growing.
But I think that what we're not looking at is that people in America have common sense, and they can see that. They can see. No. I do believe that as a whole, because if they didn't have
to vote,
I'm talking about as a whole. I'm not talking about the people who.
I see. You're talking about the Civil War. They're not going to kill each other.
No.
They're not going to fight each other.
Okay, let me tell you something.
You don't believe it?
One, the logistics for a civil war is mind-boggling. Mind-boggling. The money, the food, the beans, the bullets, the places that have hospitals and people dying, cities bombed. Even the people that started the civil war, their relatives are going to die. Nobody is willing for that to happen. Now, I'm going to tell you something.
No, they don't have to be. All they need to be is a domestic MP, a few domestic MPs let off in the right state.
There's no way.
In the right state.
A civil war touches everybody.
Absolutely.
Okay. More civilians die in war than soldiers. That is a known fact. It is twice as
your man.
Okay, but I understand what I'm saying. Okay, understand what I'm saying.
I seen it.
Most people know that too. My grandma's gonna die. My sister could die. My brother could die.
The Civil War. The first Civil War wasn't a choice. The first Civil War was forced.
No. The first Civil War was a choice.
It was domino effect.
I agree. I disagree with you. Both sides knew that there was going to be a civil war. Both sides understood.
Don't believe that there was a buffer period where they weren't sure.
No, they were always sure that there was going to be a civil war.
Because of slavery? Is that what you think?
Listen to me what I'm saying. I'm telling you what I studied. And this is what I studied. When they signed the Declaration of Independence, they said it was a snake. They knew it was going to be a civil war as soon as they. I'm telling you.
I'm a political science graduate. I understand. Nothing new to me.
Okay. I understand that. They knew when they signed the Declaration of Independence and did not take away slavery, they knew it was going to be a civil war. The South knew it was going to be a civil war. The North knew it was going to be a civil war. The only thing that they were in 1825, they knew it was going to be a civil war. Because understand, the states were starting to divide, especially in Kansas, violently over slavery. So everybody knew there was going to be a civil war. That's why the South seceded, and as soon as they seceded, they said Lee be our. That's why when they seceded, Abraham Lincoln asked Lee to be his general. Lee said, "No, I can't fight against my fellow Virginia." And then when he went over to Jefferson Davis made him the commander of the troops in Virginia. Everybody knew it was going to be a civil war.
Okay, well, looking at our situation, it would seem like you're right.
We don't want a civil war. We don't want a civil war.
Okay, but what I'm saying is those that support Donald Trump that are actually moneyed people. Those are the ones. It is
too small of a population.
Hold on. Give me a chance. You said too small of a population. Mm-hmm. Do you realize how much power small groups have on this planet over masses and what we'll have? Do you know what the Rothschild family has done alone?
Rothschild family, of course.
Yeah. So I don't want you to hit the mic.
Oh, excuse me.
Yeah. So looking at it from that perspective is just not going to work. How small of a group they are. Because watch this. Hold on now. You have to realize that there's people with power that are funding not only Donald Trump, but that are funding his supporters. And none of them are from the United States and none of them are American. I'm going to repeat that. This is what you need to know. I'm adding information to your knowledge set, just like you added some to mine. There are forces that started from Europe that that instigated the first Civil War in many ways and funded the South. That is exactly what's happening right now. They are even going as far as taking some of Donald Trump's militia groups that he's connected with, that he supports, and some of them that he don't. And they're taking them to different countries and they're being trained in special and given game plans by groups and by members of other militaries and intelligence, other countries' intelligence agencies, communities. And so with that in mind, we have to understand that there's an international factor, which is another factor, which is influencing that there will be a second Civil War. And let's even look at the world global cabal, the world global shadow government, which controls and stages and instigates events and happenings and have been. They have an influence on what will be. And my gamble, if I'm gonna gamble, is this Civil War is not gonna be an ultra explosion at once. That's another issue. It's an incremental thing. So what could happen is they can do an electrical magnetic pulse in New York, the tri-state area. If they did an electrical magnetic pulse in the tri-state area, wow, they staged it to look like it was a terrorist attack, electrical magnetic pulse, blame the boogeyman known as China. They're already kicking TikTok off. Donald Trump has become president. His opposition staged electrical magnetic pulse, knocks out the electricity in his tri-state area, then do another in another state area, boom, 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 boom. Or Donald Trump supporting people, not his American supporting people, but the global, powerful economics and political people that support Donald Trump getting in there. Once he becomes president, they go behind his back and instigate an electrical magnetic pulse, terrorist attack in key areas in the United States of America. This would kick off what? The game plan that all the militia groups who are white nationalists, Christian nationalists, who are all over the United States, these little pocket groups are going to go into their plans and they're going to go into action. And then you have an influence that comes from that movie, Civil War, that the western southern states ain't rolling with the federal government like that, regardless of who's in there. California is known to be the state that already wants to succeed, and then Hawaii also. So you come west, you come into a whole nother political game that outdates Biden or Donald Trump and all them. In fact, the potential and probability of a second Civil War outdates Donald Trump being a president, outdates Biden being a president, it outdates Bill Clinton being a president. But you're completely right. It was a different era, and Civil War was expected by the educated class and the political class. Now, at this point, I believe that the educated class, being political scientists, educated through the United States, in Southern Africa, in Geneva, in Switzerland, international humanitarian law. I've been studying this for a long time, brother, and there's no way out of it. But it's going to be incremental. It's going to be this happens. It's going to keep being a slow, slippery slope.
It's an impossibility.
It's not impossible.
It's impossible.
So you think World War III will happen before the second Civil War?
You better believe it.
We got something else to talk about.
You better believe it.
So hopefully y'all gain from this. So y'all gonna check in next time. We're gonna talk in about the Third World War. Now, they saying we're already in a Third World War and that it's an information mind control thing. So we would call it the Fourth World War. Protracted military combat. Third World War, protracted military combat, which means we're talking about a domestic. Today we talked about the Second Civil War in America, probability and possibility, right? We could do a follow-up talk about the Second Civil War again, but we're also going to do a talk about the possibilities, the probability of a Third World War. And when we say Third World War, we are acknowledging that we're already in the war of the mind by the technocrats and by the AI system we're living in. But we're talking about a protracted conflict Third World War that reflects the protracted conflict globally that went down with the Second World War and the First World War. So on that note, tell them who you are again and tell them how they can contact you, whatnot. And,
I'm Wade Morris. You can contact me at Pastor Wade Morris at yahoo.com. That's Pastor Wade Morris at yahoo.com.
All right. He's an author too. He has we're going to revamp his book. We're going to revamp his book and get him to do another book. We're going to do some low content books. He's a pastor, so he does counseling and whatnot. You can check with him, and I believe you men should check with him for certain guidance and whatnot. He helps with very strong emotionally, mentally, some of the things I hear about his life, and that's why the book's great. But his personal being able to deal with you, and also he's an aggressive man. That's what I call it. I'm an aggressive man. We're aggressive men.
Yeah.
We're not against people, but we're aggressive men. And so men that are aggressive, that need help, you can contact either of us. I'm Davidemetri, also known, and I am Ausaru Ma'a Dawoo Ekilini, Pat Bay Ausaru Ma'a, the Pat Bay. You can look up those names, but I'm also mild mannered citizen, Davidemetri, at Davidemetri.com. Davidemetri live in color, Davidemetri on YouTube, Davidemetri live in color on YouTube. You're already here. You already know who I am. Come on, y'all. This is the O.W.U. Infiniverse, Vibecast, Vidcast, and this is what we do. So if you want to get on, you got something you want to talk about, regardless where we're at, we can do the webinar, we can do the video talks. We just want you to come in and talk about what you talk about. All right? It's love every time, Davidemetri, and this is what we talk about, the real hardcore issues, the real hardcore factors, cosmic consciousness. It's preparation time. Yeah, we are the original world union. O.W.U. This is our soundcast. We are the leaders of the Unified Indigenous People Liberation Front and the priestess and high priest of the faith of true right, truth, and right. It's me, Dawoo Yashma Saru Ma. Manifesting the truth, teaching, sharing, and calling to unity, the evolutionary leaders to atone and rule as one. O.W.U.